Hey everybody, it's Allie and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, February 21st, 2016. I'm going to start out this week straight off with a poll question. I want you guys to tell me, would you have turned Noah in for the hit and run crime? You can cast your vote on that poll at yrchat.com. If you were anyone in this scenario, would you have turned in Noah for the hit and run crime? Be it Victor, Victoria, Billy. I've got to know because I feel very torn. I think there's a moral question in here because my very first instinct is, thanks, Grandpa. Victor is such a terrible family leader. Victor should be at the helm of the Newman clan, giving advice, sharing his experience, guiding young Noah into a life that will make him happy and prosperous. But no, Victor put him into the middle of a warring situation and then, like a child, tattled on him when he didn't get what he wanted. But on the other hand, there's a part of me that thinks, I honestly, if I knew that a family member had done a hit and run crime, I don't know that I necessarily would have actively gone to the cops, but I don't think I would have helped him cover it up. In fact, I know I wouldn't have. I would probably been like, you're on your own, buddy. But I also wouldn't have advised him to keep his mouth shut. It was Victor who started out Noah's path. I mean, Noah ran to the hospital right after Billy's accident happened and wanted to tell everyone. It was Victor who pulled him aside and said, no, son, you need to keep your mouth quiet about this because it's not going to do any good. And then everything just unraveled from there. Noah was in over his head from the get-go. There was no way that this was going to turn out in his favor. He was always trapped in the middle of this Newman game. He was always trying to play with the bigger boys, and it wasn't working out. He runs off to this tropical island with Marissa, yet he's still taking phone calls from Adam, and still he's curious about the game. The kid just got one-upped, unfortunately, and Noah is a casualty of this war. He shouldn't really, I understand why he felt bonded to his Uncle Adam. They shared a common experience, and it makes sense to me as to why Noah looked at Adam as someone who could advise him, could protect him, and in fact, as soon as Adam found out that Noah was the one who broached Luca about forming an alliance against Victor, Adam was trying to give Noah the benefit of the doubt. He did go out of his way to not tell Victor. I mean, Noah was practically begging on the phone saying, please don't tell Grandpa that I tried to double cross him, because if you want to play in this dangerous game, Noah, you're going to have to accept that there are consequences that could follow. Adam tried to help him. He agreed that, okay, all right, I'm going to not tell Victor. It's really best for you. I think that Adam is the one who's trying to look out for Noah and keep him out of the life that ended up coming for him, trying to prevent Noah from following in the exact same path. Adam did take a little breaky break for Valentine's Day, though, and I wanted to make sure not to forget that Adam did spend some time this week protecting Noah, but he also knows that he had some more important things to tend to. There was a very very steamy Valentine's Day interlude where Chelsea is waiting for her man, waiting for him to show up at the apartment to have a romantic Valentine's Day. And when Adam's trapped at the office dealing with this whole mess, Chelsea brings the Valentine's Day to him. She shows up in this coat that you just know. It's so obvious. It's like anytime a soap opera lady walks into a room in just a coat, I knew there was some kind of sexy lingerie underneath that coat. Loved the moment where she walks in on the important conversation between Luca and Adam, and I think Luca maybe picked up on the fact that it's Valentine's Day, this woman wants to be with her husband. He can tell. I mean, he looks down as he's leaving the room, looks down at Chelsea and comments, "Nice shoes." That was adorable. That was delightful. And we saw those shoes a little later taken off and strewn around the Victor's office. Chelsea takes off her coat and reveals to Adam, "Look, it's time to shut up. It's time to focus on the things that really matter." She reveals her very sexy red lingerie set with a red rose, telling him to keep his mouth shut and remember what's important. And they make passionate love right there in Victor's office. I'm surprised that Chelsea ever wants to make love in Victor's office again after that horrible, horrifying thing that happened with Victor's painting. I would think Chelsea seeing Adam's face morphing onto Victor's body might be enough to make her never want to go in that office again, never look at that painting again, and certainly never have sex in her father-in-law's office again. Just also on a side note, as much as I enjoyed that scene, there was a part of me that was thinking, is there any chance that Natalie's watching this? Natalie's gonna get an eyeful if she goes back and rewatches the recordings of the happenings in Victor's office. Oh, and just by the way, on a side note, I have to mention just a little bit about Luca and Summer, because last week's poll question was Summer and Luca romance. Are you in or are you out? And 55% of you, so the close majority of you, said yes, let me have it, give it to me. Although I will say, I was a little surprised. I was expecting more people to say, I think Summer and Luca would be really hot, but I noticed that as the week progressed, it seemed like more people were voting no in the poll. I swear, by Sunday, Monday, most people were saying, yes, Summer and Luca, definitely. But as the week waned on, I noticed that absolutely no way question or percentage went up quite a bit, because it seemed like we were getting hints of this Summer-Luca bond, and that it might actually develop into a romance, but it also very quickly devolved into Luca revealing his intentions of getting close to Summer. I mean, he goes to, as Adam and Chelsea are having sexy Valentine's Day in Victor's office, Luca leaves there and goes to see Summer and bring her champagne, and it seems sweet on the surface, but I did have questions about his intentions as he's sitting there lightly trying to draw information out of her. And Summer is a naive girl, and you can't blame her for that. The girl can't have experiences that she hasn't had. You can't blame her for not really knowing better, and I certainly can't blame her for having a hard time resisting that smile, because you do have to admit, Luca was very charming in that scene. I'm not gonna say I wouldn't mind sipping some champagne with Mr. Luca, but it's also suspect. I mean, as you see him smiling and trying so hard, it starts to sink into my head that, oh, okay, he's trying to get information about whatever other information he can get from Victor Newman's granddaughter in order to give himself some leverage at the company. And that, unfortunately, is what ended up happening. Summer sips a couple of glasses of bubbly, and she's spilling the entire secret about Passkey, and that this is her job to keep an eye on it. I mean, she tells him enough information to give Luca a little bit of blackmail material. He's able to use the information about Passkey and deduce that it is something very important to Victor, very important to Newman Enterprises, and he, I mean, literally does not waste a minute. He runs right back to Newman Enterprises. Adam has just wrapped up the lovemaking session with Chelsea, and Luca and Adam again meet, and Luca says, hey, guess what? I've got leverage now. Here's the thing. Either you give me control over this whole Passkey project, or I'm gonna go to the cops and tell them about Noah. It's the same old blackmail that Luca's been trying to hang over the Newmans for weeks now. I felt definitely bad for Adam being in that position, because I do get the sense that Adam is both trying to help Noah and trying to be a good business person and actually help his father. For once, it really feels like Adam's in the middle trying to do the right thing, and it's just impossible. Adam is damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, but he does ultimately decide to go ahead and give Luca what he wants to protect Noah from having to deal with the cops and to have to deal with Victor. So Luca gets all of the information that Newman has about Passkey. He goes back to the apartment, and Summer's starting to realize, I think it was even the next day, that there's something off here. All of a sudden, after my conversation about Passkey, Luca comes back to the apartment and he's got a dossier on Passkey. And I think Summer has this realization of, oops, I messed up. Not only did I mess up, but I got kind of used. She was feeling weak about her romantic position with Kyle, and so she accidentally did something stupid, and she immediately called Victor for some kind of validation to try to hope that she wasn't in big trouble for spilling the secret. And what she really ended up doing was tipping Victor off. Victor says, wait a minute. Luca Santori should have absolutely nothing to do with Passkey. Something more is going on here, and Victor decides to ask Adam about it. Of course, in a very accusatory way. It's always someone else's fault with Victor, but Victor says, what happened? Why on earth would you give Luca Santori information about this program that's supposed to ensure our company's security for years and years to come? And Adam he is forced to reveal that he did it because Luca was blackmailing him. Again, this time, actually, it was not about the hit and run. It was about the fact that Noah had formed this alliance with Luca, and in fact that it was Noah who brokered it. It was Noah who approached it. So now the truth is out there. Victor learns the secret that Adam's been trying to protect, that Noah is the one who has betrayed him, or that Noah was planning a betrayal behind the scenes. And so what does Victor do? Now we bring it full circle. What does Victor do? The man calls the cops. He immediately gets Paul on the phone. That's his solution. He calls the cops. And that was the very end of, I want to say, Thursday's episode. And I was like, it happened at warp speed. I practically had a whiplash from this storyline moving so fast, because we open up Monday's show and Noah's in bed in a hospital. He wakes up cuffed to a hospital bed. So it happened in warp speed. So Paul has worked with the island cops to drag Noah back to Genoa City. He got a little roughed up in the process, which is why he's in the hospital. But Paul, this is kind of extreme measures to catch the hit and run driver. Paul has enough information based on whatever evidence Victor handed over to Paul. We'll learn a little bit more about that later. But Paul decides to arrest Noah. Noah's back. He's in the hospital room, and the secret starts to come out about what has happened, including it starts to come out to Nick and Sharon. Thank goodness. I was so glad. I feel like, first of all, Nick and Sharon have been very absent from their son's life. So immediately, as soon as I could see that Sharon was circling Noah's hospital room, I was pleased because, like, I think Nick and Sharon are two people who overall have tried to do the right thing, and they have more or less tried to raise Noah to fall in line with their values. And they were understandably reticent when Noah decided to get involved with Newman Enterprises at all, but they decided to respect their son. They decided to let him follow his own path, and unfortunately that path led to destruction because it had Victor in its circle. So Nick and Sharon are outside trying to wrap their mind around the fact that Noah would lie about, or that, first of all, that he's been arrested at all, that anyone would think that Noah did this, but furthermore, that he would lie as the truth comes out, that they realize that he did do it, that he would lie about it. And I think probably one of my favorite moments was Sharon kind of getting up in Marissa's face and asking her questions. I wanted to see Sharon and Marissa throw down in the hospital lobby right there. I just wanted to see the hair flying because frankly, it's Marissa who also dragged Noah into this world of lies and cover-ups. I mean, it's funny that Victor hates Marissa so much when they are very similar. Noah's first instinct when the whole hit and run thing happened was to tell the truth. First, it was Victor who said, no, 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 lies are better. And then it was Marissa who said, oh, I'll help. I agree. Lies are better. I'll help you cover up this whole mess. So Sharon is finding out that her son has done this thing, which, by the way, puts her in a bit of a pickle when it comes to her husband, because it's Paul and Dylan who have to arrest Noah, and Dylan is asking uncomfortable questions, really trying to get to the bottom of the truth. Dylan's just doing his job, but Nick and Sharon have this instinct of protecting their son, and I loved, thank you, Y&R. I loved seeing Nick and Sharon bonding over this situation with their son. I mean, we saw Nick and Sharon bonding last week when it came to the whole Dr. Anderson thing, but this is bringing them together. They are two peas in a pod. They are understanding that they have so much in common, and I am just lapping up every single bit of it with a spoon. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sharon and Nick are talking about their lives, talking about their marriage and their friendship, and she looks over at Nick and she says, you do know what today is, right? And usually when Sharon says that to Nick, what follows is it's Cassie's birthday, or the anniversary of Cassie's death. Usually that's where we're going, but this time it was their anniversary. It was their wedding anniversary, and Y&R gave us this flashback of their wedding, which I remember I watched it live, or I watched it recorded on VCR anyway. Nick and Sharon's their wedding, and how young and fresh faced they look. Just side note, I love checking the website for the magazine CBS Soaps in depth. That's usually how I get any kind of casting news or whatever tidbits of what's going on behind the scenes, because they usually, by the time it hits CBS Soaps in depth, it feels confirmed to me. So if you don't have that site bookmarked, you really should. They had up some pictures of both Nick and Sharon this past week, because I guess both Nick and Sharon have celebrated a birthday recently. They're around the same age. I think Sharon Case is a few years older than Josh Morrow, but they did this sort of birthday tribute for both of them separately, where they showed pictures of them both throughout the years, and it was just, I mean, and then seeing the flashback on the screen of how far these people have come. I mean, how precious is it that we get to have flashbacks that are this old, that we can think back on our own lives while looking at these characters and seeing where they were then, where they are now. It was just beyond amazing to me. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed that. I loved seeing again the scene of Nick carrying Sharon through or over the threshold to their home for the very first time, seeing Sharon's face as she sees the cottage for the very first time. I remember when they were talking about how it was being built for them, and seeing her get carried over the threshold and looking at her home that, you know, flash forward to 2016, has always been her home and really hasn't changed that much. I mean, it's such a treat. It's such a privilege, I think, to be able to see that. YNR's it really is an extraordinary show. And when we see flashbacks like that, it just touches me and reminds me. I loved seeing Nick and Sharon's faces as they gave birth to Noah, or as Sharon gave birth, as they're looking at their son for the very first time. I cried and I cried. There were tears. Tears were flowing. It was just perfect. It completely gives me hope that we are headed toward a Nick and Sharon reunion, which I am on board for. I would love to see Nick and Sharon back together by the summer. I should talk about that a little bit more, because I think we're seeing cracks in probably both of their current marriages, and yep, Nick and Sharon, I'm there. I think it's time. But to know that you have this child and you've raised this child together, and all of a sudden to know that the child's grandfather did something that caused this pain. I mean, you don't want anyone that you love to experience pain, and here they are in the hospital with their son and knowing that Victor was the cause. And I mean, as we saw last week, as if Nick wasn't already ticked off at Victor enough. I mean, last week he confronted him, and now this. I mean, Nick, of course, marches over to Victor's office to again confront him. And I mean, I'm telling you, the second Nick walked into that office and it was clear that this was going to be a conversation to be had, I sat back, I crossed my arms, and I said, okay, Victor, let me hear it. Let me hear how you're going to explain this to your son. And of course, I mean, Victor, he wants to blame Noah. He wants to blame Marissa. He wants to blame Adam. He wants to blame Luca. He wants to point the finger at absolutely everyone but himself. In explaining it to Nick, he of course leaves out the convenient little details of his involvement in this whole thing. Oh no, he actually says to Nick that the reason he turned Noah in is because he thinks that Noah needs to pay for his mistakes. You know, this is the thing. If I thought for one moment that this actually was about justice, that Victor was actually doing it in order to help Noah, then I think my reaction would be completely different. But the fact is, Victor turned in Noah because nobody crosses Victor Newman. Nobody. That's it. That's the summary of Victor's motive, and everybody knows it. You could have just summarized it in that sentence. Nobody crosses Victor Newman. Voila, there's the answer. So when I'm considering for myself how I would vote in this poll about turning Noah in, I mean, honestly, I don't think I would. I don't think I would have turned Noah in, even though it's wrong, what he did and what he was the cover-up, but we cannot ignore the fact that Victor was the originator of the cover-up. I tell ya, I feel betrayed by Victor, and Nick feels betrayed by Victor, and I loved Nick's response to watching Victor sit there all smug and try to justify and lie his way out of this. Nick just said, you know what? It is obvious to me that Noah, my son, was just a sick game to you. He was just a pawn in your sick game. And you know what? I hope it blows up in your face. I got chills. I got chills. I am loving Nick right now. I mean, Y&R it is like we are getting next level Nick. Nick has sat dormant. He has sat dormant for years. And now all of a sudden we are getting the full force of Noah Newman. We are getting the full force of Josh Morrow. I have never been so passionate about Nick in so long. I mean, give me more of this Nick. Beautiful ruby and diamond heart engagement ring that Billy surprised Victoria with during his Italian themed top of the world marriage proposal with Victor's reluctant permission, of course. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I loved seeing Delia again appear on her birthday to give Billy the nudge that he needed to actually go through with the proposal. I thought it was beautiful. I love the ring. I always wonder, does Y&R get like real jewelry? I mean, are those real diamonds and rubies, or is it costume jewelry? It's probably costume jewelry, right? In my mind, I'd like to believe that they get beautiful pieces of jewelry on loan or something. Does anybody know the secret behind that? So if anybody has any more information about the beautiful, Victoria's beautiful engagement ring, I would absolutely love to hear it. It was just a romance filled scene with Victoria and Billy, followed by, unfortunately, going from top of the world to bottom of the barrel, having to deal with Victor and everything that happened with Noah. Adam had to tell Billy. I mean, the news was going to come out sooner or later that Noah was arrested for the crime of running him over. Adam had to be the one to break the news. I was surprised because I expected Billy to just remember on his own. We'd been seeing those flashbacks, but I think as soon as Adam said that it was Noah, it immediately started to dawn on him. I mean, Billy did remember out of nowhere seeing Noah's reflection in the the side mirror as Noah's pulling away. But the interesting twist of it was when Billy is finally questioned by the cops, by Paul, he decides not to say anything. I was so glad that he did decide to do a little favor for Noah. I was glad to see Billy exhibit this incredible amount of forgiveness and grace, such of which has been given to him at various points. So he chooses not to tell Paul what he remembers, but my favorite part was where he did tell Victoria. I did not want to see him keep that secret from her. And no matter what her reaction ends up being, I liked that he was honest with her about it, and it gave him the opportunity to say, you know, I'm not happy about the fact that he lied about it, but Noah's a good guy. I think he got in over his head, and I know that feeling. I mean, Billy shouldn't have been lying there on the floor in the parking garage anyway. So I appreciated that Billy had that moment of forgiveness and grace. It unfortunately does not negate the evidence that Victor handed over. Billy's testimony is probably, and his memories are probably not going to make one lick of difference. I will tell you, I am disappointed in Victoria for taking Victor's side. As soon as she finds out that her nephew was the one that did this, she runs right to Victor and sides with him. I mean, I don't know if she walked in while Nick was in the room. Yeah, Nick was confronting Victor and Victoria walks in the room and she sides with Victor. Really? I guess I'm just shocked, or maybe it's just so far from what my reaction would be. I don't understand why Victoria would not honor Billy's wishes. Billy's the victim here, so why not go along with what with what he wanted. It seems it's just not the reaction that I would have, and it's throwing me off of enjoying my wonderful Billy and Victoria reunion. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, there is more than one way that this whole marriage could go wrong, or engagement or wedding. I mean, there's multiple things that could be coming together that would destroy that wedding day. If it's not Billy keeping this secret from her about his involvement in Natalie's project and with Phyllis, it could most definitely be a fracture being caused by Noah and the revelation that he was the one that ran them over. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Victor's right. I don't know if Billy and Victoria will last any longer than they did the first time, or if they'll even make it down the aisle. Marissa runs to Adam looking for someone to blame for the fact that everything with Noah just blew up in their faces. In fact, she gets up in Adam's face and smacks him right in front of Chelsea. I was like, oh no. I wanted Chelsea to grab Marissa by her hair and toss her out of that apartment. No woman's gonna come into my home and smack my husband and get away with it. I would have beat her ass. And I know you would have too. Nobody's gonna come up to somebody you love and hurt them, and you're just gonna be like, hey. There was such an opportunity for a good fight there, and I don't feel like they took it, and I wanted it. I'm fed up with Marissa. I think that she is definitely playing a huge role of blame here. She's looking for someone to blame. Look at yourself. I think Dylan needs to arrest her too. In fact, I hope that's what happens, because we learned that, and actually I don't know if this was the piece of evidence that Victor handed over, or if this was something that Dylan and Paul found independently, but I'm assuming that whatever evidence it was that Victor handed over, it was surveillance footage of Marissa thinking she's so smart, going to the dump, throwing away Noah's tires and getting him new tires. Remember how she thought she was so smart with that little move? Oh, well, guess what? You were on surveillance. Ugh. And then we saw from the preview, by the way, of Monday's show, that Marissa is going to talk to Dylan and say that she wants to take the blame. She completely wants to take the blame, say it was her that was driving the car, and that's going to solve everything. It's like all Marissa knows how to do is lie. Her solution to cover up one lie is to cover it up with another and another and another. Dylan has two mysteries to figure out. He's getting his feet wet on the GCPD, that's for sure. He's dealing with the whole Noah thing, but Dylan's not letting go the fact that there's more to the Dr. Anderson story. He is wanting to pursue Patty, continue to question her. Dylan's looking for answers, while Paul is telling him there are no answers. You know, don't you think I want to believe Patty? Don't you think I want to believe that my sister didn't kill someone? Unfortunately, I've been where you are. Save yourself the misery. Stop asking questions. There are none to be found, which is frustrating because as the audience, we know that there is more to be found, but we also know that Dylan's not going to drop it. There are big holes in Dr. Anderson's motive and the mystery of what she was trying to tell Dylan the night of the big fire. I think that is what has made it very personal to Dylan, knowing that she wanted to tell me something and I can't crack the code. But I think what we're seeing is kind of Dylan and Sharon and Nick and Sage sort of kind of coming apart and maybe mixing up the marriages a little bit. Dylan wants to continue to pursue, while I think Nick and Sharon are thinking there's just, and I'm not sure if there's anything else to know. Sage is continuing to have her nightmares. I mean, she had another terrifying nightmare this past week. It's like she knows that there's something more and she's not giving up. And it seems like it's Sage and Dylan who are going to be the ones to spearhead this. Nick and Sharon are certainly going to have their hands full. Sharon and Sage are continuing to bond, and there was this weird moment at the coffee house toward the end of that sequence of scenes, maybe Wednesday, and it's like Sharon is constantly putting Sully into Sage's arms and trying to pump her up and make her feel good, and it is very, very nice of Sharon, yet at the same time I think it's fueling Sage's instinct here, which is a good thing. I mean, we ultimately do want this truth to come out, but the thing is, Sage was holding Sully, and then she was talking to Dylan about wanting to know that there's, if there's more to it, and there was just something in Sage's face, the very last thing we saw within this sequence, where I thought, does she already know? I mean, is there any chance that Sage is already kind of wondering or having an instinct, or is she already putting together these pieces? We had talked several weeks ago about, as soon as the baby switch happened, I think we were theorizing that maybe Sage was going to believe that Sharon's baby was hers and that it was going to make her look crazy. Well, maybe that part of the story hasn't happened yet. Maybe it is to come. Maybe Sage is going to continue to put these pieces together and try to insist, or maybe even talk to Nick about it, and it's going to make her look crazy, maybe bond her more with Dylan, and again bonding Sharon and Nick even more. So, I mean, I think ultimately, I feel like the direction we're moving here is for Sage to be injected into the Adam and Chelsea triangle, and it almost feels like Y&R, they're either giving us a nod to Nick and Sharon's history just as a wink, or they are actively moving us toward Nick and Sharon possibly getting together again. I don't know if anybody else is excited about that idea, but as much as I really do like Dylan, and I really liked him this week in particular, but I'm not gonna be sad if Dylan and Sharon break up. I don't know if I'm alone, but if Dylan and Sharon break up and Nick and Sharon get back together, Sage kind of gets pushed into that triangle with Adam and Chelsea, that's fine with me. I'm not sure where exactly it leaves Dylan. He would kind of be the odd man out there, but I'm up for mixing up the couples. Anytime a woman on soap operas starts to feel a little sick, it's the immediate cue to the audience that she is pregnant. And this week, Abby was woozily walking around town feeling like she ate a wrong shrimp puff. And we know as the audience, the girl is pregnant, but it was revealed in kind of a fun and entertaining way. Ashley bonks her head and passes out and has to go into the hospital, and which, by the way, made Stitch very concerned about Ashley, made him late to his Valentine's Day romantic evening with Abby, but Stitch is there tending to Ashley and insisting on a blood test so that he can help diagnose her problem, because he doesn't trust Dr. Neville. Well, Dr. Neville's there at the same time, and isn't he a quick thinker? He happened to just grab a vial of blood from the lab while, just on an off chance, just in case you need it. Keeps it in his coat pocket probably. And apparently he switched Ashley's blood results accidentally with someone who was pregnant. So Stitch comes back into the room and tells Ashley, wow, you're pregnant, and Ashley darn well knows that that's not going to be the case. Ashley's not really getting any these days, which she made very clear. But they put two and two together, and Ashley and Dr. Neville realized that it was Abby's blood sample. So Ashley and Dr. Neville know that Abby is pregnant before anyone else, before even Abby knows that she's pregnant. Abby comes to the hospital to find out that, is she going to have a new little brother or sister? And mentions to Stitch that she's not feeling well, so a blood test for her gets run, and it's revealed that she is actually pregnant. It's a very, very happy time. I tell you, I did enjoy those little funny scenes. I thought it was just kind of a unique way to reveal a pregnancy. We definitely haven't seen that before. I had a lot of laugh out louds during that whole sequence. I thought Dr. Neville and Ashley were quite charming together. And I thought that Abby and Stitch being overjoyed by this unexpected pregnancy was very nice. I mean, Stitch was absolutely over the top excited. We're having a baby. I mean, it's like their lives are just coming together. It's almost perfect. Too perfect. Abby and Stitch realize that it's time to tell Max about the pregnancy, and Abby feels that maybe it's best if Stitch talks to him on his own. So Stitch takes little Max to the coffee house, feeds him a brownie, starts to give him the talk, which, by the way, I thought it was adorable that Max was like, is this the sex talk, Dad? I already learned all about that in school. Plus, I got an eyeful of it when I walked in on you and Abby the other week, or the other day, or whatever. That was quite funny. But the little twist is that on the surface, Max is seeming just absolutely fine with the fact that Abby's pregnant with the woman who he finds responsible for his mother's death is pregnant with his father's child, and so now not only has his entire world been rocked, but now everybody's gonna be cooing over Abby and her little baby. Oh, but no, Max is taking it absolutely perfectly. Couldn't have gone more smooth for Stitch. But the truth is, we are dealing with a little psychopath here. We see on the surface Max's happy reaction, but then as soon as Stitch steps away, we see Max's secret fantasies, where he is imagining Abby all pregnant and happy and coming down the stairs and coming up the stairs and tending to him, and he's standing at the top of the stairwell while Abby's in the stairwell, and Max just pushes her. She falls down onto the floor. She's lying there like, wow. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was awesome. I'm the world's worst person because I was like, oh my God, that's kind of, it's kind of, I don't know. It's a twist that I wasn't expecting. It's not that I want like Abby to lose her baby or anything like that, of course. And it's not that I want to see this child be a psycho, but I think it's kind of like a Good Son. Have you ever seen that movie, The Good Son? It had Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood, and like there was just, and it was just this little kid who just enjoyed doing bad things, and I guess that at the end of the day, I find the prospect of Max being a troublemaker far more entertaining than seeing Abby and Stitch be happy or even just, I don't know. I mean, I could see that Max could cause trouble. I don't know if what we're gonna see is that dark. Like, I don't want that to happen, but I like kind of the implication that Max is at least going to cause trouble. I don't think he's going to take it all the way, but I think that it's indicating to us that this kid is going to do some damage to their relationship at the very least. I also could not help but make the parallel that as Abby's tumbling down those stairs, this is a situation that happened to her mother. This is a situation that happened to Abby. Ashley. I was flashing to a certain stairwell scene when Ashley is at the Newman Ranch on the stairwell, terrified for her life being gaslighted, and who's standing at the top of those stairs in a purple dress? Adam scared Ashley and caused her to fall down the stairs and lose her child. As a matter of fact, didn't Victor cause Nikki accidentally to fall down the stairs and lose a child. I guess the whole fall down the stairs and lose a child trick is a soap opera staple. Neil is full on drinking again. The twist this time, I suppose, is that he's drinking and everyone knows it. There's no hiding it. It's just trying to stop a freight train. And that's what it feels like for all of the loved ones in his life, which is something, I don't know, I personally can identify with. You know that somebody is on this path of destruction and you just don't know that there's anything you can do to stop it. Ultimately, the responsibility lies with that person. But I got most definitely an acute sense this week of the ways that Neil feels isolated in his world, whether it's correct or not, whether it's of his own making or not. Neil feels isolated seeing Kane and Lily so happy, and much more impactfully seeing Devon and Hillary so happy together. I'm not sure if maybe Neil thought that the right thing to do was to reunite Devon and Hillary, but then didn't fully understand what it was going to feel like once he was successful. That's my best guess for it. But Devon and Hillary are very much back together. It is like just add water. Devon and Hillary back together just like that. Neil sees them kissing at the Valentine's Day party and they whisk away upstairs. I mean, I thought Devon and Hillary were quite hot this week. I mean, Hillary looked beautiful again. I feel like I'm constantly, I cannot help commenting on how much I love Hillary and her fashion lately. She just looked so incredibly beautiful and voluptuous on Valentine's Day. I mean, that dress she had on was like boobs for ages. I really tried hard. You know how I do the photo caption every week for the website? I tried so hard just to catch one little, just frame of a second of Devon like looking in the direction of her boobs for days. Like I watched, I was like, please let me just grab a screenshot of that, because it was just like, how could he even look her in the eye? That dress was not designed to be looked at in the eye while you're wearing it. She looked beautiful and she looked smoking hot upstairs as they run off to make love for presumably the first time. Yeah, for the first time since she's come back from their honeymoon, probably the first time since their honeymoon. So Devon and Hillary had a full reunion this week sexually, although it's not quite there emotionally yet. You can tell that Devon is not sure about moving forward. It seems like Hillary has no qualms whatsoever about fully putting herself into this relationship now. But Devon, you know, he still has questions, and probably rightly so. But we saw them cozy in bed together, and Devon even made a comment about, well, this is how it should be. So I think he wants to believe that things with Hillary are back on track and as they should be. But I think he's still a little bit skeptical about it. But the fact that Hillary and Devon are back together full time, it's like enough to make a grown man take a swan dive into a gorgeous hors d'oeuvre table in the middle of a Valentine's Day party. It broke my heart. It was like a Valentine's Day heartbreak. Neil is seeing them kissing, seeing the fruits of his labor, seeing that he's been successful in reuniting his son and his wife, or in Neil's mind anyway. And he just, he's drinking, and he just, I guess, leans on that table a little too hard and just kind of like, I don't know, falls into it, and all of those beautiful flowers and beautiful hors d'oeuvres go all over the place. It was painfully humiliating to see Neil fall. By the way, not once, not twice, but 3 times this week. I think Weiner was clearly building on a pattern there. I am appreciating Jack's help in all of this. Jack is Neil's sponsor. sponsor. It is very clear that he wants to help Neil get sober and by any means necessary. So I do like that Jack is being a friend here. I appreciate seeing him try to guide Neil toward the right path. I'm surprised Nikki is not involved in this whatsoever, but maybe next week, I'm not sure. By the way, I loved Phyllis's black peplum dress with that fuchsia lining underneath it at the Valentine's Day party. That was just gorgeous. I probably should have done a full Valentine's Day fashion segment, but now I don't remember everything. I only remember bits and pieces. Shoot, I could have done a fashion segment just on the lingerie this week, couldn't I? But I guess thinking about Jack helping Neil through this kind of reminds me of Billy and the way that Jack has tried to help Billy through his difficult times. And also I started seeing this kind of parallel between Billy and Neil this week, because through the revelation of the Internet Security Project, Billy told us that it was so important to him to vindicate himself to the people in his life. He wanted to be involved in Natalie's project so badly, in part because he wanted people to see him as competent. And that's what we're seeing with Neil right now. All of a sudden, Neil realizes that if he can't have love, then maybe he can have success. And he decides to throw himself into the Dr. Neville's project. He drunkenly calls this press conference, this ill-conceived press conference, which did have its funny moments. Seems kind of like any scene that Dr. Neville is in is funny to me anyway. But Neil is talking to the press. He's like hanging onto the microphone like he's introducing a rock band or something, like, hey, everybody. Oh, it was sad. And I mean, it's just like watching him go into self-destruct mode. Devon actually steps up and tries to encourage Neil to exit stage right, maybe. And there's a bit of a scuffle and Neil goes down. Just right down to the ground. That's fall number 2. Everybody in the press sees it. It was horribly awkward and humiliating. It caused a fight between Devon and Neil. Devon fires Neil, which I had a feeling was coming. You can't talk to your boss like that and expect there to be no repercussions. I mean, what Neil did completely could have undermined the research that was being done, which, you know, and just in general, Neil's looking for a thread to hang on to, and this isn't necessarily it. Thank goodness Hillary rides into the rescue with this whole like moving speech about the promise of this research, and she completely saves the day, looking beautiful as always in a second outfit. I just cannot help myself, she looks so good. And she has this little conversation. I want to know if you guys notice this. She has this little conversation afterward where Ashley and Dr. Neville are congratulating her for writing in and saving the day, and she says, oh, you know, I'm happy to do it, happy to do anything that I can do, whether it's be a spokesperson or provide my blood samples. Anybody else's little antennaes go up over that? I mean, we know Hillary's doing some blood tests over there in the lab. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Back to Neil. He is, it's just worse than ever. It's like there's no bottom. Neil gets drunk. He falls for time number 3, and he falls down on the floor. He's passed out in this hotel room where he has a head wound and is bleeding. He has a case of liquor that he's been drinking. Luckily, Jack figures out the delivery location of the liquor. I mean, Jack should be like on the GCPD for doing that little trick. He saves Neil's life. I mean, all of a sudden, they rescue Neil. He shows up in the hospital room. You know, honestly, this storyline does hit home for me in dealing with someone who has an alcohol abuse problem, and I really appreciated the way Christophe St. John played it. There's something in that hospital room when he woke up ready to just, I don't need you, I just need a scotch, like it is actually very real. The look in his eyes, they were bloodshot, and that is sort of a reaction that I think is genuine, and then Lily and Jack also in the hospital room saying, please, if you can't do this for yourself, then do it for us. And it's just, I don't know if Neil's going to end up going to rehab or not. I don't know about that part of the story. What I am predicting, though, is I think that Hillary is going to keep taking blood tests, for the research on the project, and she's going to end up discovering that she is pregnant. I mean, she slept with Neil recently, and she's slept with Devon now, so it's in close proximity. So I think we're going to start to see another soap opera staple coming down the pike here. I think Hillary and Abby are going to be pushing strollers side by side. That is if Max doesn't decide to go on a baby killing spree across Genoa City. Speaking of Neil, it was Neil during last week's show who declared, "To hell with tomorrow." Only one person got last week's Who Said It quote last time, and it was Katie. Congratulations, Katie. You watched very closely because it wasn't little. It wasn't a throwaway line. It was a big moment. Neil is down in the lab. He's drinking again. Devon encourages him to just go home and sleep it off, and Neil says, "To hell with tomorrow." So I thought it was a good line, and I'm glad Katie got it. Adam had said on the blog, "I think this might be one of your sneaky tricks, Allie," because most people thought it was Marissa. It almost sounded like something Marissa would have said. I mean, if you're just looking at the text of it and out of context of the scenes, you can almost see Marissa being in the hotel room telling Noah, "To hell with tomorrow." But that tells me I got to make sure to get the quotes that aren't too easily detectable from scenarios. I don't know. I want to know if you guys actually heard the line. So here is this week's Who Said It quote. You tell me if you know who said this. "Newman Enterprises eats people's souls." As soon as I heard that, it clunked down into my mind because I thought, good Lord, is that the truth or what? It's just the nature of the beast. Newman Enterprises eats people's souls. I mean, can you even list on one hand, two hands, the number of people who've had their souls devoured by Newman Enterprises? So if you think you know who made this observation, you can go to yrchat.com, leave me your guess, and if you get it right, I will give you your shout out on next week's YNR Chat. Last week we had a community question posed to us from Justin. If you could bring back two YNR characters from the past, who would they be? I gave you my picks during last week's YNR Chat. I had chose Malcolm and Ricky Williams, and I also had mentioned a little bit, just as a little side note, about little Nate. I'm thinking that he might be someone interesting to bring back, and Flash Photo on YouTube left me a comment and reminded me that they actually did bring back Nate for just a brief moment. He was the one who performed the surgery on Chance and Ronan. I completely forgot about that. So it's a little tidbit that YNR actually did address in not even that long ago, and I guess just never really kept on that line of character development. Gosh, I just thought that would have been good, but you guys blew me away with all of your suggestions. In fact, if you have not gone to the website to tell me who your two YNR characters would be, I would love to continue reading these. It's yrchat.com, and oh my goodness, so many good ones. I mean, some of you guys took it all the way back. Like Connor was saying, I want to see Liz Foster. Wow. I mean, it's like I didn't even know that, Connor, you were watching back then, or that you knew those characters. I mean, you guys took it all the way back, but they're all just so good. I mean, Gary had mentioned even, Gwen as having been a sideline character that really didn't get her chance. A lot of people said Catherine. And I had to stop myself from saying that because it's like, obviously, I mean, they're not going to recast Catherine Chancellor at this point, so, and I wouldn't want it. So it did come to me thinking that maybe that would be someone who I would want to see back, but it's not going to happen. Victoria had said I'd bring back Cassie and Catherine. We kind of got as good as we could possibly get when we had Mariah recast or brought onto the scene. That's almost as good as seeing Catherine again. I mean, there are just so many good ones here. Shoot. Colleen, Jasmine says, I know she died too, but it's kind of like, I tried not to pick any of the characters who we know have died. Nancy says Jeannie Francis is Genevieve. That's another one that would have some relevance into this current landscape of YNR. That's why I tried to base mine on, I just thought, okay, who could really feasibly come back and add something of value to the show beyond just kind of a nostalgic, I want to see him again. I wasn't a huge fan of Genevieve, but it definitely would have been something interesting. Oh, and Nancy says Lauren's son, Scotty. That is a really good one because we didn't, they had him on for a little bit and didn't really follow up on it, didn't really pursue him, but he would be someone who could definitely get in there, interact with Lauren and Michael, of course, and maybe even interact with, more of the Baldwins and more of the younger crowd. I love that Phaedra picked Chemo, because, you guys, I had a long list of YNR characters who I would love to see come back, and Chemo was on him. Chemo is Jack's son, from Lawn. It was a very short storyline that YNR, it really didn't last very long, that Jack had this son, and I think Peter Bergman didn't like that story. I remember hearing rumors as to Peter Bergman just not really liking that story or being a fan of it, so maybe that's why it didn't really get brought back. But Philip Moon is the actor who played him, and he's very good, so he'd be someone good. Phaedra also mentions Heather Stevens. She'd be someone to bring back. I think YNR struggled. They really struggled with Heather. I don't know if they just couldn't get the right actress or what. Gary had left me a voicemail early in the week that had mentioned that there's actually another Williams brother out there that was only mentioned very briefly in the beginning of the development of Paul and the Williams family, but it was never really picked up on and ran with. But a third Williams brother would be something good. I mean, there's so many good ones. I had Danny Romalotti on my list too, January. I don't know why see, Danny would be someone who could come in here and interact with Chris and Paul immediately. I don't know if his days are just numbered or what, but gosh, I mean, there are just so many good ones. You guys got to go check out that thread at yrchat.com and read all of them. And oh, you know what? Fine, if you guys, because some of you guys picked more than two, so I'm gonna say just quickly some of the other characters that came to my mind, because when Justin posed this question, I immediately made a list of 12 people, but I really tried to limit myself to two. So just quickly, I want to say Ryan McNeil. And in that vein, Nina. What about Ronan? Of course, I thought of Avery. I liked her, and I miss her. I miss Gloria. Where is she? And also in that vein, I really liked Michael's father, River. Never forgot that storyline, played by Michael Gross of Family Ties fame, but I thought he made a perfect father for Michael. I loved the twist that came along with his character. It was just absolutely genius. I'd love to see more Michael, and so that one is another that stuck out to me. Now, speaking of returning characters, I saw an update on the CBS Soaps In Depth website this week that Angela Conwell is coming back. She's returning as Leslie. So, I mean, do you guys, it's like Leslie and Tyler just slipped away into the mist. I mean, and we never heard from them again. I honestly, to be honest with you, I wasn't 100% into either of them. They were all right, but I don't know, YNR just didn't really dig in maybe the way I needed them to or something. But I mean, it takes me a while sometimes to warm up to new characters, and neither Leslie or Tyler really grabbed me, but I am very curious to know if under what context that Leslie is going to be back. I did read that March 14th is her return return date, and that she's supposed to be there to offer legal advice to someone in Genoa City. Now, I don't know who that would be, because I immediately thought, well, Noah is in legal trouble right now, but I mean, if it's March 14th, it's another several weeks away. And I mean, Avery was in Neil's orbit, or Avery, I'm losing my mind. Leslie is in Neil's orbit. So I wonder if Neil's going to find himself in some legal hot water and is going to need someone like Leslie. Maybe she's going to be the only one he feels like he can call. We had speculated quite a lot lately about Natalie's paternity, maternity. I tell ya, this had not occurred to me, but I like it. ACO on YouTube says, what if Victoria is Natalie's mother? That absolutely never occurred to me. I completely assumed that if Judge Moxley was coming back, that she was going to be connected to Natalie in some way. But now that you mention it, ACO, Victoria was given a whole lot of talk about parenthood this week, telling Billy that they could write the book on, or Billy was telling her she could write the book on parenthood. And given that interaction between Victoria and Natalie, that is also a possibility. I mean, there's just so many different ways that we could go. All we know is that Natalie's related to someone. And I gotta take a moment to say, I just really like her. I really like Natalie. I think Natalie gives us a fresh look at our same old characters. She's coming in with new eyes, making comments about these people that maybe, you know, seeing things in a way that we haven't seen them before. I like looking at the residents of Genoa City through her eyes. I loved her very cynical take on the L word this week. You know, she sees that love in Genoa City does not last. Love, and in general, love does not last. I think there's going to be some interaction between Natalie and Kevin next week, so I don't know if and we know she likes him, so I don't know if she's going to be pursuing him, but how could anyone resist that swan dress with the big bow in her hair? I mean, where did Natalie get that outfit? It was perfect. I just love that YNR said, let's find something over the top and absolutely ridiculous to put this girl in. Mission accomplished. Beatrice left me a voicemail and she says, Allie, it was very hot to see all of those couples with their love scenes this week. Beatrice says out of all three of the couples, she felt that the hottest was Chelsea and Adam. The other two are hot, but those two are fire. Yes. How about those love-making scenes? I mean, my goodness. If you want to see a little quick capsule summary of the smokiness that was that scene, go to yrchat.com. I've got a nice little screenshot up there for you. Take you right back to memory lane of Valentine's 2016. It was hot. You know, actually, I loved that Gary called in and left a comment on my voicemail and reminded me that I believe it, he was asking, but I think this is true, that Valentine's Day last year was the cabin murder mystery, unless it was 1 year before, but I feel pretty sure it was last year. I think so. Maybe one of you guys can confirm that for me. So it's like last year at this time we got Valentine's Day massacre. This year at this time we've got Valentine's Day hotness. Let me tell you, I much prefer the hotness. Also, Gary, I gotta call you out a little bit here. He says he's not feeling the Dr. Neville story. And it is not, Gary's quick to say, this is not about Michael E. Knight and feeling like he can only be Tad Martin or anything like that. Gary feels like this is just not a good story and there's no chemistry between he and Ashley. You're breaking my heart. Usually we agree about pretty much everything. And I just love Dr. Neville and Ashley. I think they are so adorable. I mean, their scenes throughout the week were probably what gave me, I don't know, just some sort of comedic relief. I mean, Wayner was very serious this week. And there was just something about those scenes. I laughed out loud. I mean, I really laughed out loud. I felt just absolutely delighted seeing them together. Give them another chance. Keep trying. Keep trying. You never know how it could turn on you, because I didn't like Chelsea at first, and I didn't really even like Hillary at first, and now look at me. So you never know when you can get turned on a character. Consuela, in contrast, at yrchat.com says, I love Ashley and Neville scenes just about as much as I love Adam and Sage scenes, which is a whole lot. Neville's banter with everyone is just so different and intriguing. I think probably the thing, I mean, it's just, to me, it's magic. It just completely works. I mean, Y&R is giving Dr. Neville choice lines. I mean, the writing is on point. It is funny, and the delivery is there. I mean, you can give anybody funny lines, but it doesn't mean they're going to deliver them. There was a scene where Abby was revealing that she was pregnant to Victoria at the athletic club this week, and there was just, like, she made some kind of joke about that she said something like, I'm flighty, and I don't know, some kind of joke about her being, she was making herself the butt of the joke, and it just didn't carry. It took me a second to go, oh wait, that was a funny line. That was supposed to be a funny line, and it wasn't funny. So, I mean, you can have great writing, and if the delivery's not there, then it just falls flat. So I do appreciate that we're getting this magic moment of Dr. Neville actually getting good lines and actually delivering them. Connor left me a voicemail this week that says, this week I finally put myself in Neil's shoes. I started looking at Neil and understanding that he's just an angry person, seeing all of these couples around him. I mean, even Nikki and Victor working things off. So as much as I don't like alcohol and drinking storylines, I see why Neil decided to pick up that drink, and I felt so bad for him. Yeah, I know. I actually kind of zeroed in on Neil a little bit this week too. I got it. I think for some reason, even though I don't like drinking storylines either, I did kind of understand Neil's perspective a little bit better throughout the course of this week. But we're gonna see what he does. Will he go to rehab? Will he choose to get better, or is this the beginning of a new cycle of destruction for him? I don't know. LNC at yrchat.com says, we have seen Devon hanging around the athletic club and spending Catherine's money on various payoffs and schemes, but he never seems to do any work. Shouldn't he at least be running a charitable foundation? I liked Devon a lot more before the inheritance. What happened to his love of music and discovering new artists? This Neil, Hillary, Devon story just won't die. Enough. Wow, I know, it does, I get that too. Devon had more depth to him when, frankly, he was with Roxy and he was mixing music and he was doing his own thing. Maybe it's true what they say. Maybe money corrupted him. Maybe that's kind of what ruined him rather than making it better. I always kind of thought it was a little yucky that Catherine pretty much left all of her money to him. I mean, I'm sure it was, it's all plot driven and all that, but I think we do need to see some more dimension from the character of Devon. If you think about it, we don't really know anything about him. I mean, he's been wrapped up in this triangle with Neil and Hillary for quite a long time, but I don't get, honestly, when it comes to Hillary either, I don't feel like I really get a sense of her personality as much. I think we're lacking in character development for both of these people, which is maybe why it's difficult to connect with them. Because Anna left me a voicemail and she says, normally I like Devon and Hillary, but I find it hard to believe that Hillary is so in love with Neil and then she's so in love with Devon and celebrating with him on Valentine's Day. But Anna says, I did like everybody getting sexy for Valentine's Day. And most importantly, I really like that Stitch's son is evil. Well, first of all, I agree that it is a leap of faith to think that Hillary literally did a 360. I mean, she was begging Neil, begging him to get back together, and the next day, like as soon as Neil just handed her, as soon as she saw the divorce papers, it was a complete turnaround, and it's like everything she felt for Neil just went out the window. I mean, she'd rather go upstairs and have sex with Devon than maybe check on Neil and try to see if he's gonna be okay when it was clear he was floundering at that Valentine's Day party. She couldn't be a little more sensitive to him. If she feels like she loves him and knows him, why did all of those feelings for Neil just get tossed out the window and now she's upstairs sleeping with Devon? It is a little jarring. I don't think Y&R's done as good of a job at helping us understand and appreciate and follow along with these characters. But also, I've heard from more than one person, although Anna, you helped validate the fact for me that it's okay to like the fact that Max is a little psychopath. Because I feel guilty for being a little excited about this potential twist because I don't want anything bad. I mean, you know, it is dark. It is dark. If I take myself out of it and I'm realistic, I know it's very dark. But I can't help it. There's a part of me that's just like, all right, something different. All right. Sharita left me a voicemail, and she had a prediction that she thinks that Stitch is going to be unaware about everything that's going on with Max, and it's going to make Abby look crazy. Yes, as soon as you said that, Sharita, I was like, boom, that probably is it. They're going to probably move Max in with Abby and Stitch, and Max, we've seen it. We've seen that he is perfectly capable of playing the quiet little angel role, but in the background and in his mind, he's doing all these little things, and maybe it's going to start out with little things that Abby is like, that's weird, and maybe it escalates to something more and more dark, but maybe she's already paranoid and insecure in her relationship with Stitch. She has said so. We just got married. Are we really ready for diapers? She doesn't feel solidified, and in fact, when she was at the athletic club waiting for him for her Valentine's Day romantic evening, it occurred to me that she's probably always going to be a little bit paranoid or insecure when it comes to Stitch's relationship with Abby or Ashley. I gotta train myself for that one. And there was that little quip in Ashley's hospital room where she says, "Look, I don't make it a habit of sleeping with my coworkers," and it was just like that. It was just like a heavy clunk into the middle of the room when Abby has. Her mother has slept with her husband. So I think Abby is already insecure, and she may continue to fuel. They've already been talking about her pregnancy hormones. I mean, she may be, fueling and becoming, looking like a crazy person or something. So I think that's a really good prediction. Justin called into my voicemail again this week and just said it. I have to agree. Justin says, "I'm just so glad that Dr. Anderson's death is not a murder mystery." Yeah, I would say it seems like we kind of theorized a little bit last week if there was more to Dr. Anderson's murder. Could someone else have done it? Kind of thinking not. I think I'm ready to for now at least say that what we saw is what we got. And it's not a murder mystery. And I agree, especially given, the Valentine's Day massacre apparently of last Valentine's Day. I agree. I think that would have been a taxing direction to head in. The real mystery here is about unlocking Patty's mind. And I think that's far more entertaining. Corey on YouTube makes a good point that hadn't fully sunk into my mind. Corey says, "What happens if Sage's baby is blind? That would be the only way to know who the baby's father is." Because, and I like this point, hadn't thought of it. The whole blindness thing was most definitely something that came up with Connor. YNR has used that on multiple occasions, but we really, I hadn't thought about it in relation to the paternity of Sully / Christian. I don't know if that's going to come up, but I think it's definitely a possible direction that YNR could head in. I like this. I love Daisy. She sends me her comment on Facebook, and I like it when Daisy kind of mixes things up and goes, "Wait a minute, this is not so black and white." Because regarding Victor turning Noah in, Daisy says, "I don't blame Victor for turning Noah in. After all, Noah wanted to take Victor down. Also, I don't think Victor was trying to hurt Noah. Well, maybe a little. But I think he was trying to give Noah a wake-up call in regards to Marissa, which at this point I don't see working, the wake-up call that is. But Daisy goes on to say, I think Marissa is responsible for all of this." Yeah, I think if I believed that Victor was acting out of trying to teach Noah a lesson, I would definitely feel more forgiving of him. But I can't get around the fact that that it seems like Victor just wanted revenge. I mean, I don't think it's Victor's position to teach Noah a lesson exactly in this way. I think that Victor could have, it would not be fun to watch, but Victor could have talked to Noah. I mean, he definitely, although to your point, Victor did try to warn Noah to stay away from Marissa ad nauseum, and he didn't take the advice. But at the end of the day, Noah's not your enemy, Victor. I mean, he's your grandson, and I would have liked to have seen Victor approach it in a different way. It just seemed so petulant to me. But I certainly do agree with your point that Marissa is the one that's responsible here. And Noah. You know what? I'm not ready to let Noah off the hook. He most definitely went along with everything. He shouldn't have listened to the bad advice that he got. Adam at yrchat.com says, I must admit I'm furious with Victor right now. After he rats out his own grandson Noah after helping him keep the secret, he explains to everyone that Noah should take responsibility and do the right thing by doing his time in jail. Victor, how about you take responsibility for all the things you've done? It is like the pot calling the kettle black. I like this comment from Aaron on YouTube who says, Billy doesn't care anymore who ran him over, so what's the point of all this? And I feel like that's worth something. The way that Billy feels about this should weigh into it. Whether he decides to go to the cops or not, Billy's the victim. Billy should be one of the people who at least has a say-so in the prosecution of this crime. I'm not looking forward to the prosecution of this crime. It's not a fun, I don't think it's a fun thread to follow. I got a really nice review on iTunes from Christina, and I just wanted to read this and say very much that I appreciate it. Christina's review of the podcast on iTunes says that this is a really well thought out and all around fun podcast about my favorite soap opera. Each week, Allie provides an insightful look into the show's latest happenings and provides thought-provoking forecasts on what might happen next, all the while charming listeners with her fun and sweet personality. Why, thank you, Christina. That is so nice. And it absolutely made my day when I read it because I watched Survivor too, and I saw the premiere Wednesday, and I thought, you know what, I could pick up a news podcast. So I go onto iTunes and I'm searching for Survivor podcasts, and of course there are far more Survivor podcasts than there are YNR podcasts, and I downloaded like all of them, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to find the one that fits my vibe. I'm not even kidding you, I downloaded like 8 separate podcast series, and I only found one that I could even follow. I mean, there's absolutely no requirement for putting together a podcast. Anybody could put a podcast on iTunes, but it's like the ones I'm listening to, they're just so, the Survivor ones that I had to weed out had no linear outline. It was like, did the people even know what they were going to talk about? It was just infuriating to listen to, and I do take the time to put together the segments of YNR. I have an outline. I know what I'm going to talk about, and I do try to present it in a logical way. So I really appreciate that you appreciated that or noticed that, Christina, because it isn't just a fly. If I sat here and tried to talk about YNR for an hour without any idea of what I was going to say, it would be horrific to listen to. And I do try to make it coherent and to keep my ums and my and ands to a minimum, because it's not easy you try talking to yourself for an hour. It's hard to not want to fill in the gaps, so I've definitely had to train myself to speak about YNR on a weekly basis, and listening to the podcasts and the videos today is probably quite a bit different than 7 years ago. So thank you for acknowledging and enjoying the podcast. And I think Christina has a box of soap on the way. I think, if I do recall, I think that Christina snatched up one of the extra Genoa City soaps. So that's wonderful. And Anna actually called in and left me a voicemail that said, you know, I was skeptical a little bit about, you know, about soap, because how could soap be great, you know? But she said Anna cracked open one of the Ashley soaps and said that she really liked it, and it was creamy and bubbly, and it's so nice for me to see you guys enjoying something that I made. And also, I've been using handmade soaps for a long time. I discovered a long time ago that they were amazing and that there actually is a difference, and it feels good. It's not the same as commercial soaps that strip your skin. I mean, these are actually really good, nice soaps. So I was glad to, you know, feel validated. So thank you, Anna. And let's see, Connor sent me a thank you card this week for, it was a secret giveaway that he won a bar of Paul, and he sent me this wonderful card. Thank you. It's very sweet. It's right here on my desk. And Lauren had posted a photo of the soaps. She already got them. So we did the big giveaway last week. She got the soaps. And Lauren won the Lauren soap, and she posted a photo of the contents of her little special Valentine's package. She posted it on the YNR Chat Facebook page if you want to go see that. So thank you so much. And I just also want to say thank you to everybody who, again, participated in the Soap for Soap fan stuff. I never want anybody to feel like they have to, and I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything if you do win the giveaway. I appreciate the thank you cards and the love. Like, it really does mean a lot to me, but I also don't want you guys to ever feel like you have to. I do this because I want to do it. It's a fun little hobby for me. It's a fun little excuse for me to make soap. So I just want to again say thank you for all of the soapy love. I hope that you guys enjoyed them, and I did post the making of videos for the Adam and Chelsea soaps on the Genoa City Soap YouTube channel, which you can find the videos at genoacitysoap.com. If you want to see me doing something related to YNR, but not exactly YNR, those are fun videos because I get to edit, I get to add music, I get to talk a little bit about my creative inspiration and show you guys the process. So I hope that if you're interested in checking those out, that you have fun watching them. And that's all I want. I do all of this because I enjoy it, and I want you to enjoy it. So I really hope you do. Well, this is a long one, so I better get going. I think I've had 2 long ones right in a row, but there's just so much to talk about. Now it's your turn to talk to me. So how about some comments? Of course, you can leave them on the blog at yrchat.com. It totally touches my heart, too, to see you guys interacting with each other. So that's fun that you guys, you know, you can, all of your favorite podcast / video stars are there. I mean, Gary and Connor and Consuela and Victoria and all you guys, you're constantly, I mean, Ellen, you're all there. I could sit here and list names forever, but you can talk to all of the people who are the regular commenters right there on the yrchat.com website. And leave your comments there. You can also, from there, find the links to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, too. I love reading YouTube comments. I get a lot of love from the YouTube folks, and you can chat with those people there, too. So there's lots of places to leave your comments and interact with each other. And you know I love my voicemails. So that phone number is 309-588-4569. It's like my own personalized podcast. So I love listening to those, but however you like to leave your feedback, I love reading it and appreciate it so much. I appreciate you guys listening and watching, and I will be back next week to chat again. We will see where we are in Genoa City. I love you guys. Bye.